Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Purudikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Purudikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So before we begin, if you'll allow me, I want to go over the word-by-word meanings to Jaya Radha Madhava and Yashomati Nandana. And of course, you may not remember them just from going over it once, but these books are in the closet. They're available to you. You can just get this secret combination and get in there. There's a pile of them. So first, there we go. I was inspired to do this because, thank you, Prabhu. The whole theme in these last two yesterday's class and today's class is about the intelligence. If the intelligence is a prostitute, is unfaithful, then it causes great problems. But with the intelligence, we can learn these meanings, and then when we sing the song, the pictures and the qualities and the pastimes will all come to mind. Okay, so this is page 60. Okay, so this is a simple song, one verse. Jaya Radha Madhava, that's pretty clear. All glories to Radha and Krishna. Madhava is the husband and goddess of fortune. Kunja Vihari. The kunjas are? The groves in Vrindavan, and Vihari is enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer in the groves of Vrindavan. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Well, Gopi, so the Gopis, Gopi Jana, the Gopi people. Vallabha. Who knows what that means? That means they love him. He's beloved to them. This is their relationship with him. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Giri Vara. What does that word Vara mean? What? The best. In this context, it means the best. Vara can also mean a benediction. You know, and in the song, it becomes Bara in the Bengali, because they mix up the B's and the B's. So Nata Bara, the best of dancers. He is the Giri Vara, the best of hills. It's another name for Govardhan hill. Dhari, this one we should know. The lifter. Giri, Dhari, that's his name, the lifter of the hill. Okay, so we got the images now. Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giri Varadhari. Yashoda Nandana. Nandana means one who delights. The delighter of Yashoda. It's a common name for any child, because the child is the delight of the parents. And Braja Jana, here we have this word Jana again. The Braja Jana, the Braja people, the residents of Braja or Vrindavan, Ranjana. He pleases, one who pleases. It's similar to Nandana, a little different way. And then, not Yamuna, but Yamuna. Yamuna is a name for the river. Yamuna means of the river. It's a grammatic thing. Yamuna. Yamuna, Tira. What's the tira of a river? The bank. Vana, as Vrindavana. Forest. Something's happening on the forest, on the bank of the Yamuna, and it's chari, means he's performing pastimes there. One who wanders. He's wandering on the dancing and playing the flute. So that's the images. Now you may forget them, but review this so that when we sing the song, all those images and those emotions, those relations will come out. This is why Prabhupada gave us the song. Now I'm going to spend another 5 minutes going over the other song that we sing, that we just sang, Yashomati Nandana. Some of the words are the same, like Nandana. And I don't expect you to remember all these, but it'll be nice if you can learn them. Okay, Yashomati, of course that's Mother Yashoda, Nandana, the beloved son. Yashomati Nandana, Braja, here we go again, Vara, Nagara. So the Nagara is a hero, right? Let's see what it says here. The transcendental lover in the land of Braja. So it's Nagara, the lover, hero for women. He's the best. He's the leading, Vara Nagara in Braj. Gokula, we know, right? The place of the cows. Ranjana. So Ranjana means one who delights. So he's the delight of all the people in Gokula. And Kana. Kana is the darling. It's kind of a nickname for Krishna. It's another word. In Vrindavan, he's known as Kana. Gopi, we know. Now, Parana comes from the word prana. It's a Bengali. So prana means the life breath of the gopis. Dhana, the treasure of the life breath. Dhana. Dhana is a word like Godhana means the treasure, the cows, which are like a treasure. The wealth of the lives of the gopis. Gopi, Parana, Dhana, Madana Manohara, one who can attract even the mind of Cupid. Hara means to take away, Mano means mind. So he takes away, enchants even Madana. In other words, if you become absorbed in Krishna consciousness, you get free of sex desire. That's what the code word is. Madana Manohara. And Kaliya, big snake, right, demon, who was delivered and became a non-demon actually. Damana. What's Damana? Chastise. Vidhana. He who performed the chastisement. Vidhana. The chastiser of the Kaliya serpent. So, that's the first verse. And okay, so this may take a little too much time, but you get the idea. So go through, take the time to go to pick up the books. You can, 6 of you can do it. We have 10 books. Go through this. It's on page 65. Then when we sing the songs, all these pastimes will, you'll see them. It's just like the English. When you hear English description, that you enter into it, right? So I wanted to just encourage you to do that. Okay. So now, let me just get the right place here. Okay, that worked. All right. Yeah, this is the right page. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim sadasutim vyasam Tato jayamadiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 13th day of February 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind. Chapter 5, Narada Muni, Cursed by Prajapati Daksha. Text number 15. Tatsanga Brangshitaishvaryam Sangsarantam Kubhayavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Kimasat Karmabir Bhavet Tatsanga Brangshitaishvaryam Sangsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Kimasat Karmabir Bhavet Tatsanga Brangshitaishvaryam Sangsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Kimasat Karmabir Bhavet Tatsanga Brangshitaishvaryam Sangsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Kimasat Karmabir Bhavet Tatsanga Brangshitaishvaryam Sangsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatir Abudhasyeha Kimasat Karmabir Bhavet Tatsanga Brangshitaishvaryam Sangsarantam Kubharyavat Tadgatira buddhasyeha kimasat karma bir bhavet tatsanga brangshitaishwaryam samsarantam kubharyavat Katira buddhasyeha kimasat karma bir bhavet. You want to try? You go and kirtan. Tatsanga brangshitaishwaryam samsarantam kubharyavat tadgatira buddhasyeha kimasat karma bir bhavet. Vajraj Gopal. Tatsanga brangshitaishwaryam samsarantam kubharyavat Vabudasyeha kimasat karma bir bhavet. Anyone online want to try?
Hare Krishna, can I try, Prabhu?
Yes, you may.
Sure, thank you. Tatsanga brashitam taishriya
Tatsanga brangshitaishwaryam
sansarantam kubharyavat
samsarantam kubharyavat
tattira buddhasyeha
tadgatira buddhasyeha
kim satkarma bhavet.
kimasat karma bir bhavet.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Tatsanga brahmshitai varyam
Tatsanga brangshitaishwaryam
samsarantam kubharyavat
samsarantam kubharyavat
tadgatir abuddhasyeha
tadgatira buddhasyeha
kimasat karmabir bhavet.
kimasat karma bir bhavet. Ladies? Tatsanga brangshitaishwaryam samsarantam kubharyavat Katira buddhasyeha kimasat karma vir. Okay, in the name of saving a little time, I'm just going to read through them. You can listen, okay? Those who have devices or books can read along. Tatsanga, by association with the prostitute of intelligence, brangshita, taken away, aishvaryam, the opulence of independence, samsarantam, undergoing the material way of life, kubharyavat, exactly like a person who has a polluted wife, tatgatihihi, the movements of the polluted intelligence, abudasya, of one who does not know, iha, in this world, kimasat karma bhavet, what can be the benefit of performing temporary fruitive activities? Translation. Narada Muni had also spoken of a man who was the husband of the prostitute. The Haryashvas understood this as follows. If one becomes the husband of a prostitute, he loses all independence. Similarly, if a living entity has polluted intelligence, he prolongs his materialistic life. Frustrated by material nature, he must follow the movements of the intelligence, which brings various conditions of happiness and distress. If one performs fruitive activities under such conditions, what will be the benefits? Purport. Polluted intelligence has been compared to a prostitute. One who has not purified his intelligence is said to be controlled by that prostitute. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 2:41, Vyavasayatmaka buddhir ekeha kudunandana. Those who are actually serious are conducted by one kind of intelligence, namely intelligence in Krishna consciousness. Bahushaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasahinam. One who is not fixed in proper intelligence discovers many modes of life. Thus involved in material activities, he is exposed to the different modes of material nature and subjected to varieties of so-called happiness and distress. If a man becomes the husband of a prostitute, he cannot be happy. And similarly, one who follows the dictations of material intelligence and material consciousness will never be happy. One must judiciously understand the activities of material nature. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3:27, those who are reading along will be a little confused by the translation, which has been updated. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Although one follows the dictations of material nature, he happily thinks himself the master or husband of material nature. Scientists, for example, try to be the masters of material nature life after life, not caring to understand the supreme person under whose direction everything within this material world is moving. Trying to be the masters of material nature, they are imitation gods who declare to the public that scientific advancement will one day be able to avoid the so-called control of God. In fact, however, the living being, unable to control the rulings of God, is forced to associate with the prostitute of polluted intelligence and accept various material bodies. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 13:22, Purushak pakatisto hi bhongte pakatijan gunan karanang gunasangosya sadasadhyo nijanmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. Close quote. If one fully engages in temporary fruitive activities and does not solve this real problem, what profit will he gain? Om jnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, the intelligence, again, now we have this description of the living entity who is the husband of this prostitute of material intelligence. And as explained here, the living entity is really victimized in that way and is forced to associate with the modes of nature and become completely bewildered. And in this way, material life goes on and on. Now, of course, if in the human form of life, one is completely controlled by the prostitute of unchaste intelligence, or the intelligence which is simply in the service of the modes of nature and trying to figure out ways to enjoy material nature, then you may not have that human intelligence next life, because you'll be committing all kinds of sinful activities, and the chances are you'll lose it, go down to the animal species or even lower. But there is intelligence in every species. There's mind and intelligence. It may be very rudimentary, but it's still there. And in the human form of life, the main distinguishing factor is this higher intelligence, means a more powerful intelligence. If it's misused for animalistic propensities, then it's a great tragedy. And down you go to spend so much time gradually coming back up. So I wanted to, in the purport here, Prabhupada quotes this very important verse, Vavasayatmaka buddha ekehe kurunandana. Now you may recall that if in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada calls attention to, I think, a commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he says, this Vavasayatmaka, which is defined, let me just read the translation of that verse. Those who are on this path of bhakti are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So, the key difference in the makeup of a devotee and a non-devotee is the intelligence. Intelligence is really that special gift and special quality of the human being by which they can develop the strength of will. This vyavasayatmaka buddhi means a one-pointed intelligence which can't be wavered by the vicissitudes of the modes of nature, the changes and the temptations. So he says that the key element in that is accepting the order of the spiritual master as one's life and soul. And I always think of this line in the Guru Vandana song, Shri Guru Charana Padma. Guru Mukha Padma Bhaka Chitate Kadi Aka Arno Kadi Monayasha. That's the first thing. How does the intelligence become purified? By hearing, or secondly by reading. Right? You can read silently and it works, but it's even better if it's oral, if you're hearing and reading to each other, or hearing the spiritual master speak directly, or like Arjuna, get your Krishna speak directly. So the intelligence becomes clear and becomes purified and becomes influenced by this higher intelligence of Krishna coming directly, rarely, or through the parampara, through the pure channel. And therefore, what happens is that the will, the decision, the all-important decision, what to do and what not to do, because life is simply a different series of doing one thing and not another. Oftentimes, it's under duress, right? You're growing up, you're not free to act this way. Your mother is telling you do this and do this. She's acting as your parents, older brothers, teachers, as your higher intelligence. And you're developing your understanding of what's right to do and what's wrong to do, what's the real goal in life. I mean, when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, it was understood that, yeah, school is so important, you know, because then you can get, you know, into high school and you'll get, you do well there, and then college, and then you get a good job, and you'll be successful in life. If you don't do your homework, you know, then you may get a bad grade, you get into a good school, and your life will be ruined. So there, that's the idea is implanted. And your vyavasayatmaka buddhi, your firm intelligence is, okay, I really have to study, you know, because I want to succeed in life. So the key is, what is it that forms our intelligence, that informs our intelligence also? When we get older, we can choose, but on what basis do we choose? We choose on generally on the conditioning that we've been subjected to as we grew up, which is generally material conditioning. This is why being born into a family of devotees is such a wonderful blessing. It's better than being formed in a family of yogis, you know, Ashtanga yogis or whatever. What to speak of wealthy family and all these, because those just give you different varieties of ways of staying controlled by the material energy. And so you end up with a prostitute of intelligence, means one who is unchaste, who is always filled with various kinds of desires to enjoy that are really bad for you, that are bad for the spirit soul. So this is very important. And Gaurasundar Prabhu was referencing the verse, a wonderful verse in the third canto, where Kapila Deva is describing the creation. You know, how when we come into this world, it's fascinating. The interaction of the false ego with the different modes of nature produces, out of the mode of goodness, you would think that's intelligent, but no, that's the mind, and the intelligence produced from the interaction of the false ego with the mode of passion, and then the interaction of the false ego with the mode of ignorance produces all the senses and the sense objects and everything. This is how we come to be. So the intelligence is produced by the mode of passion. And of course, this is the conditioned soul. This is someone who's bound up in the material world. So you're kind of born, practically everyone is born with this idea of enjoying the senses. You grow up with that. And of course, the children you can't really do much with, you know. But as you grow, you get trained. And the whole idea is that the higher self will control the lower self. This comes at the end of the third chapter. All of these things are very much related. Because if you're simply under the control of kama, of material desire, that will infect your intelligence, your mind, and your senses. That's very clear in the third chapter. So you're kind of bound by that, and you think this is what life is all about. You don't have any other idea. Unless you get exposed to that, and then we come back to the sangha, is so important. You know, pasangam majanam pasham atmana kaviya vadu, is that it's those who are strongly bound in this world by their attachments. Sangha means attachment and association. Pasangam madaram pasham. They're in the form of strong ropes. So many times you hear about cutting the knots, right? We just heard him last night about cutting the knots, cutting the ropes of material desires which bind us to this world. That's what bondage is. And what is liberation? Mukta sangha padam vrajet. By chanting the holy name, you become liberated from those strong ropes. They get cut. Mukta sangha padam vrajet. It's not that you don't get attached. You get attached to Krishna, attached to Bhakti, attached to the devotees, attached to everything related to Krishna. And that completely obliterates material desire. That is the power that cuts those desires, those attachments. So that's a great blessing of this age given by Lord Chaitanya. So back to this verse and purport here. And so on one side you have the polluted intelligence, which is like a prostitute. And you remember intelligence has samshaya, doubt, right? Misapprehension, correct apprehension, the memory, and sleep. Those are the 5, I think, things that are spoken of in the 3rd canto he quoted. So each one of them is important. If you're simply hearing from people who are completely illusioned, or you're reading books that just keep you in the modes of nature, then you're going to be filled with misapprehension, mistakes about what the goal of life is, or what this world is, where it completely bewildered. That's what Kali Yuga means. It's very rare to find someone who understands the truth. And so Prabhupada's mission, as he understood it, and he was completely correct, was somehow bringing the light of Bhagavat philosophy. You know, it says the sun of the Bhagavat is risen, you know, to this benighted Western world, and preaching. And that was what the spiritual master gave him to do, and that's what Lord Chaitanya predicted. And Bhaktivinoda said, when will the day come when the Russians and Americans, and he's chanting, and, you know. So they foresaw this, but it took Prabhupada's heroic, courageous, merciful activities to really make it happen. And so we're benefiting it when we read these books. I mean, every day the Bhagavatam. This is, you know, the result of Prabhupada's desire and his compassion. And this is what will purify our intelligence. Not just reading, but studying, discussing, living, actually following the rules and regulations. So Prabhupada quotes the Vyavasayatmaka buddhi. We discussed that. That's the buddhi, this intelligence, needs to become fixed in devotional service. And because, don't forget, the memory is there. Now the memories are also memories of enjoyments and things, you know, that can distract you. So it's a question of not feeding those desires, and gradually the memories become impotent. Just like with Yamunacharya, famously. You know, Yadavadi Mamacheta Krishna Pada Vinde Navanavara Samadham Rantamasi Navanavarasan Rantum, I forget. Dhamma Yuditam Rantamasi Tadavadi Badanadi Sangame Smayamani Bhavati Bhukavikara Sushanish Divanansha. So the memory is there. I mean, it bubbles up. You know, he's not asking, but it comes. That's the way it is. But he's so fixed, his intelligence is so pure and fixed in devotion, that he's not attracted by it, he's remembering his liaisons with ladies when he was a king, you know, sex life. So he says, this is not bewildering my mind or attracting me, it's disgusting me. You know, not that the women as a class is disgusting, but the whole thing of illicit sex and trying to enjoy that way is disgusting, because he's enjoying at every moment the rasa, the pleasure of serving Krishna's lotus feet. And that's what we want to try to come to. That's why this avismati Krishna Padada Vindyo, the constant remembrance of Krishna, his lotus feet, means service, and the pleasure that comes with it is a major goal. It's kind of a definition of pure devotional service. There's a wonderful verse I was mentioning last night about the Krishna Katashtaka in the 12th canto. It's very important. And then the last verse, which is one of the ones quoted by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur a lot. There's a section of that wonderful biography that's just like verses that he would always quote, and this one is there. And I heard Prabhupada also quote it on one lecture. Avismati Krishna Padada Vindeho Chinotya Buddhrani Chashangtanoti Sattvasya Shuddhim Padamatma Bhaktim Jnanam Cha Vijnana Viraga Yuktam. So this is all, the last verse in the Krishna Katashtaka means that when you cultivate this hearing and chanting, and that becomes central to your life and your practice, then it results in this wonderful result, which is constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Krishna. Avismati means never forgetting, constant remembrance. Krishna Padada Vindyo, which has these effects. Chinotya Badrani, destroys everything inauspicious in your life. In other words, any latent or vestigial impurities, by that constant remembrance you become completely pure. It's evidence of purity. So, Chinotya Badnai Chashangtanoti. So it destroys everything inauspicious in your life, and it expands everything auspicious. Sham is like a word for Shankara, is a name for Shiva, because he brings auspiciousness. And so this Sham Tanoti means expands everything auspicious. Then it says Sattvasya Shuddhim. This means the purification of your existence. Paramatma Bhaktim. And of course it nourishes the devotional service to the Supreme Person, Krishna. Characterized by jnana, knowledge, vijnana, realized knowledge, experience, and vairagya, detachment from everything. The wonderful verse. And it's right near the end of the Bhagavatam. It's showing this is what it's all about. This is what the result is. All as a result of hearing and chanting about Krishna, which purifies the intelligence. So then that's Vyavasayamika. This is the good. But then on the other hand, Krishna mentioned Bahushaka Anantasa. Without that determined intelligence to serve Krishna, because you've heard, you understand the philosophy that I'm just going to suffer if I don't, and I'll enjoy unlimitedly if I do. So and who's the idiot who wouldn't take the choice of unlimited enjoyment over boundless suffering? When you actually understand. So, but still, Bahushaki, if you don't have that intelligence and your mind goes many branched all over the place, maybe I can enjoy here, and he pointed out, I think the cell phone, there's always something, other button you can push. It's a disaster. The cell phone is great because everyone can read all of Prabhupada's books right on the cell phone. I remember when the iPad came out, I didn't have a cell phone. This was way back. And I would, at that time I was traveling a lot, I would fly, I said, wow, I can have all of Prabhupada's books in my hand? And I immediately got an iPad, or someone gave me one actually, and I said, got the books in there, this is great, I'm sitting on the plane, reading Prabhupada's book. So that's part of it. The advanced technology also can facilitate devotional service like anything. Just like when Maharaj is here, he's not here on Wednesday mornings. They're having a meeting. They're having a Zoom meeting, the GBC, all over the world. Devanrita Swami is sitting in New Zealand, and Bhaddi Narayan Swami is sitting in San Diego. So his meeting is 3 a.m., and his meeting is 10 p.m., and all in between. So the times are different, but the meeting is going on. They're helping to, run the whole society. You couldn't do that before. So, when our intelligence is not fixed, then it becomes affected by the modes of nature, and this is the danger, that you become, confirmed in the mode of passion with a good, dollop of ignorance. Then you're completely filled with misapprehension. That's one of the qualities of intelligence. You made a big mistake. Just like now, it's fine to lie. That's the freedom of speech. But then everyone is becoming confused about what's what. This one guy got into Congress, everything he said was a lie about who he was and where he came from. Well, you shouldn't be there in Congress as one of the legislators for the laws. But no, now they have to figure out what to do with them. There's no law against lying, but there should be, especially in a responsible position like that. So anyway, this is, the Kali Yuga is filled with that. People, lying and exploiting and cheating and the cheaters. So this is the first job of an aspiring transcendentalist, to find someone who's honestly giving the actual truth, is not motivated, no motivated, just simply out of compassion, simply out of kindness. And that's what the parampara coming down from Lord Chaitanya is that, Vasudev Dat, let me take all the sinful reactions and I will suffer forever and everyone will go back to God. Lord Chaitanya heard him, he knew he was sincere, he started crying and he embraced him. He said, you don't have to go, take all the sins. Just by your desire, they're already delivered. So, we're delivered. So we have to act like it. All right, so then Prabhupada quotes these very important verses. If one is the husband of a prostitute, he cannot be happy. Similarly, one who follows the dictations of material intelligence and material consciousness will never be happy. This is the whole point. The conditioned soul means that the intelligence has been contaminated and he doesn't know what is what, doesn't know what the goal of life is, and is completely sure that that which is suicide for the soul is what he really wants to do. In other words, everything is topsy-turvy. Viparyayo. This viparya is it. Bayam dvitiya banaveshitaksyan. Ishadapetasya viparyo asmriti. Remember the smriti, or remembrance, is the intelligence. This is asmriti. He forgets. Forgets, that's another thing of intelligence. If you remember, you can also forget. Forgets Krishna, forgets who we really are, and identifies with the body, where the body is born, you know, and all of that. Yasyatma buddhi kunabhetvidati. And then acts in such a way for his own destruction. And propagates it as knowledge. This is another aspect of the conditions of cheating, right? So that's the whole thing begins with the truth. When the truth is not available, there's all kinds of lies that are available. And that's what everyone is thinking. And in that illusion, they're acting for their own worst interests. So then he quotes, Prakriti Kriyamanani. If you be bewildered by the false ego, the false sense of self is the root of the whole thing. Thinking you're the body and born, you know, I've been born in such a family, the color, the whole thing is. So what happens? We think that we're doing all these things, but actually material energy is doing it. We're trying to control for our own happiness, but we are controlled, and it always leads to misery and suffering, birth, death, old age, disease. Trying to be happy, to be the husband, that's really to be the master of material nature, when we're actually completely controlled by material nature. So, then it's one very important verse here also, Purushak Prakatistohi. So, the living entity, we're Prakriti, right? We learned that in the 7th chapter. We're Para Prakriti, but we are energy. We're not the Purusha. Prakriti means that which is enjoyed, basically. So Krishna is the supreme Purusha, right? Purushottama. We are imitation Purushas, acting as if we can control and enjoy. So that's why he says Purusha Prakritistohi. We're situated within Prakriti. And Bhunkte, now Bhunkte is an interesting word. It often means enjoy, and that's how Prabhupada uses it. But really in this context it means experience. We experience Prakriti Jangunan, the gunas that are generated by Prakriti. Why? Because sometimes it produces suffering, sometimes it produces happiness. You can't say you're enjoying, and you're not always suffering. So experience is the word that takes both of those things. So we experience the gunas, the threefold qualities generated by Prakriti. And our freedom, especially in the human life, is how to associate with those gunas. Karanam guna sangasya, as we associate with the gunas, or the three modes of nature, sadasad yoni janmasu. That determines what birth we're going to take. So our destiny is in our hands, but unfortunately, if we're completely ignorant, then we're going to associate with the modes that will be, and we won't know, oh, this is the mode of ignorance, and we end up, you know, victimized. Just like the husband of a prostitute, he's victimized, you know, he can't be happy. So, understanding all this, we should strengthen our intelligence, so we know how to associate with the mode of goodness, or the pure goodness, associate with those in the mode of pure goodness, in other words, the devotees, especially pure devotees, so that will be our influence. And then we can also come up the modes. You know, in other words, you don't have to stay in the mode of passion and ignorance. I mean, I was in the mode of ignorance, passion. You know, still there's memories of that. But I don't feel compelled to act that way anymore. No, I took a vow, you know, I can't do that anymore. No. And that's where the Guru's words come in. And don't forget the next line, Shri Guru Chanana Rati E Seyutama Gati. Gati is an interesting word. It can mean goal or the means to the goal. And in both the songs we sing, the Guru Vashtaka and the Guru Puja song, it means that. The best means of advancement is a strong attraction for the lotus feet of the Guru. Because that affection will lead you to want to follow his instructions. You see? In other words, you want to read, you want to serve, the affection that will grow. And that affection is a great value. Because it'll stop you from acting in such a way for your degradation. And after some time, those old desires will just wither and go away. So that's another very important part of that song. So how to associate with the modes in such a way that we get the best birth. Sadasad yoni janmasu. And the ultimate best birth is birth in the spiritual world, not in material body. So but in material nature, this is the general description of people who are victimized, especially in this age. So this is, knowing that it's in our hands. If we have the proper knowledge, if we absorb it, we'll know how to associate with the material energy, so it doesn't degrade us, but we can rather use it in the service of Krishna. That's actual yukta vairagya, as recommended by Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this is, the Haryasvas here, they understand, they're so intelligent that just by him speaking the analogy, they're getting all of the instruction. And this is explained. It doesn't say they're saying anything, but it's just saying this is how they understood it, and they understand this thing. With understanding all of this, kimasat karma bhava. Have you noticed that all the verses end with that line? It's kind of unique in the Bhagavatam. It's kind of a song. We can just memorize that one line and get the instruction. Kimasat karma bhava. What is the use of activities which are asat, which are simply conditioned by the material energy? We can do activities, but they should be transcendental activities. So knowing how to act and how not to act, that's the first sign of surrender, right? You accept those things favorable and you reject those things unfavorable. So having been given that intelligence and a nice environment and the wonderful kirtan by which we can become purified, if we act that way, our intelligence will become our best friend. Just like Krishna says, the mind intelligence can be the friend or the enemy. So the Haryasvas are very intelligent with it. In the end, they say, no, we don't want to become progenitors. We'll become sannyasis. Thank you very much. And they leave the father and they go take sannyas. And then when their brothers do it, Daksha loses it, curses Narada Muni, and Narada Muni accepts it as a blessing. All right, I can go keep traveling and preaching, just like Prabhupada did. Prabhupada said he was cursed by the parents of his devotees that he couldn't stay in one spot. That's why he always had to travel. Okay, so we're a little behind in time. So any questions, comments on these points? Very illuminating allegory being explained here. All right, then I'll end with one poem, which is... Uh-oh. Go ahead. Mr. Zoom? Is that Maitreya or Vijay Krishna?
Maybe it's Maitreya Prabhu. Go ahead, Maitreya Prabhu.
I thought I heard his voice.
I don't think he can speak now. He's mute.
No, I think it's not he that's mute. Something happened with his electronics. But okay, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhu. The translation to the text you chose for today is mentioning the concept of independence. Mm. At the very end of the same translation, the concept of becoming benefited. The expression
becoming what?
Benefited.
I'm looking at my translation. If one performs further activities under such conditions, what will be the benefit? That's
yes. What will be the benefit? So based on this, my question is, how to use my independence in order to get at least some benefit?
Well, you can use your intelligence by reading Prabhupada's books. That is something that everyone can do, and when you not only reading the books, but if you can hear the books explained in a class or by the Guru, Realized Soul, you can listen to Prabhupada's lectures. They're most wonderful. It takes a little while. I never had any problem understanding his English, but some people do. But then you're hearing the books. He's going through Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. I don't know if you noticed. I mean, I don't want to say this is an absolute 100% thing, and I definitely won't name any names. But if you look at the Bhagavad Gita lectures, you see many, many lectures on chapter 2, 3, and then you get to I forget which chapter, and suddenly there's no lectures on this chapter. Why is that? Wasn't Prabhupada going through it? There's like a bunch of chapters. My understanding is that at a certain point, early 70s, Prabhupada was lecturing everywhere he was going, and tapes were being made. And they were sent to L.A. for storage, but he was in L.A. for 8 months, and he was giving a lot of lectures, so a lot of tapes were made. And they didn't have all what they have now, all these buildings and everything, you know. They had basically, anyway, there was some, they stored them on the roof, and they got destroyed. It's not all lectures that were recorded, the recordings were destroyed. That happens. So, but anyway, the ones we have are wonderful and ever fresh, you know. So that's one way of using your intelligence properly, so that you will benefit.
I asked you about the use of my independence.
Yes, you're independent. You can listen to this, you can listen to that. You can read this, or you can read that. The point is that on the basis of what you've heard already, choose the right things to expose your intelligence to, which often means words. You know, that's how it means. And if you do that, then you will really benefit. Otherwise, you'll be performing fruitive activities. Your intelligence will dictate to you, as it does to practically everyone in the world. There's some variety of fruitive activity under the modes of nature. So that's the way that you can use your independence, you can use your intelligence, and you will truly benefit, because you won't be performing karmic activities. Does that help?
Of course, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Do we have time for one more?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay,
Very
Dhanamari.
wonderful class.
Hare Krishna.
And nicely explained practical points. Thank you so much, Hare.
Okay. Maitreya, do you want to participate?
Yeah. So I really appreciate your pointing out that refrain. You mentioned that during Balaram's class the other day too.
Yeah,
there's this refrain after each one. And I just wanted to make a comment. Maybe you'll have time to comment on my comment. It's an interesting interface that the Haryashvas are thinking in terms of profit, like almost in a fruitive way. And this is such an interesting interface between this mentality of profit, loss, and gain, and the eternal life in which we know Krishna is Akila Rasamrita Sindhu. He's an ocean of rasas that's no one in the spiritual world is thinking in this sort of profit-loss way. It's an eternal and ever-expanding relationship with the reservoir of all enjoyment. So this interface is a fascinating point. We're absorbing ourselves in hearing and chanting and entering into the consciousness of Vaikuntha. At the same time, there's this moment where the profit-loss mentality can still offer one last service to us if we choose correctly.
Yes, we are investors, you know, and we're investing our time, our energy, our intelligence, and everything because we want the greatest return. You know, those who are making monetary decisions, they're even if they make money, they're still lost. You know, but we're investing our time, our energy, because the result is unfathomable. You know, unlimited, eternal happiness without a tinge of distress. What could be a greater result than that? You know. And so, yeah, this is, and it really is a choice. This is the gift of the human life, of the human intelligence, is that we don't have to just follow the impulses of the senses and the mind, and then get all depressed and and then do something that's more self-destructive. But if we're intelligent enough to associate with this is the other ashtaka that I discovered, and that's the Sadhu Sangashtaka. Where Kapila Deva is speaking to his mother, it's the same philosophy. Prasangam madanam pashamatmana kavayo vidu saisha sadhu shukato moksha dvaram apavatam. That the prasanga, in this context, it means very strong attachment, which are compared to powerful ropes, ajanam pasham. That attachment has to be taken or redirected from the objects of the senses to the sadhus. To the sadhus of this world. Who's the sadhu? Then he describes the Tikshava Karunika. It's all very nice. And then it culminates, kind of the culminating verse of the series is the famous verse, Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhivantirit kanavasayana kata tadjoshanara shabhavarga vatmani shadharati bhaktaranukravishiti. So you choose to associate meaningfully, prasangam, the same word is used, not to mean attachment, but to mean hearing and shushusho, submissive oral reception, or ardent hearing, okay? Then what will be the result? Well, if you go into the association of these sadhus, you're going to hear glorification of me, says Kapila Dev. Lord Kapila Dev. Mama virya samvido, my powerful activities, qualities, and everything. So what's the result? Well, first of all, he just said, oh, this isn't ordinary speaking, a sound. Bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata. These talks and these sounds, vibrated by pure souls, are like the elixir, nectarian elixir, rasayana kata. And by following this simple process of yoga, Tadjoshanat Ashu, quickly, Apavargavartmani, which is the path of liberation, one develops faith. The faith is nourished. It's all important faith. Shraddha, Rati, attraction to Krishna, and Bhakti, which here means pure Bhakti, a love for Krishna. This is the main process. And the next couple of verses, one of them it says, this is the easiest process. Rijubir. Here we are, doing it. I mean, I'm just quoting Prabhupada. But it's the easiest and most important way to purify. So and I can't resist, Prabhu. I'm going to close with my verse that many of you heard before, but it's exactly pertinent. The purification of the intelligence. Kamadinam katina katita palita nideshas tesham jata mayana karuna nattapano pashantihi utsvijaitan hadiyotapate sampratam labdha buddhis tvamayatak shadanamabhyam mamniyung svatmadasye. Here it comes. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. It's exactly pertinent to this portion. And then Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.